All right, welcome back. We haven't done one of these in a while. Cheyanne Bowers, you have a fight coming up in Alabama?
Yeah, Alabama, all the way down south.
All the way down south in, let's see, 2 weeks, a little over?
Yeah, like 2.5, yep.
2.5 weeks. So the prep for this one, not a whole lot has changed, I don't think, right? Like just basically, I feel like that's always kind of what we suggested is like sometimes people will say, okay, like let's work on some of these, the weaknesses that other person has. But I feel like you've been constantly kind of evolving as a martial artist. Would that be something you would agree with?
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of like bigger name fighters always say like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I kind of try to follow that same idea. So my training really doesn't change. Maybe my conditioning goes up a little bit, putting a little bit more time in the cardio, but techniques and skill wise, it's just a continuous process of constantly improving, working on things, working on weaknesses. I feel like I've improved the most mentally lately, just finding my confidence and like figuring out my style of fighting and what kind of suits me best. Just constantly growing. Sweet.
So the last one was a loss as your first pro fight. Talk to me about the suckiness of that. Like that, like those suck, right? And like I think what a lot of times people don't understand is they expect from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that it's, you know, that she fought some girl from Brookings, or she fought you fought a girl from Mongolia that was in the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's what people don't understand a lot of times when they come to the gym here. Even though we're a small, like relatively small gym, I don't think people realize the caliber of people that we have to go against. It's always like usually either, you know, people from top gyms. Like I think one of Jeff's last guys was from Jackson Wink. You know, a lot of times we're fighting guys from Florida or from wherever. And it seems like they're always having to fly in for this because the only cards that we have in South Dakota for the most part are televised cards. So because if it's a televised card, they have to get a little bit higher caliber opponents. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you had kind of forewarned me following my last AMI fight, with my record being 7-1, like it's probably going to be difficult to find an opponent to say yes to that debut. Yeah, they found one from Mongolia, and she was a beast. I mean, she got exactly what she wanted. You know, I feel like I was able to think in that fight, which was probably my proudest moment. Is even though I was on a bigger promotions card, I was in my pro debut in my hometown. And all the stress of that, I was still able to mentally check in with myself and be like, hey, like I know she's wearing herself out. Second round's going to be my turn. And I was thinking about all of these things. So just being able to be in the moment in there was my biggest takeaway from it, despite the loss.
Yeah. And like we weren't able to find a whole lot of tape other than some of her judo stuff before. We didn't realize that, like, man, her last fight she just fought recently was at 145, right?
Yep. Yeah. So she went up a weight class.
Yeah. So she was bigger than I think, at least on the coaching side, than I expected.
For sure. She looked like a monster across the cage, for sure.
So for this fight, you're going to be at 125, right? So is that something where you feel more comfortable with, you think?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like it's going to be a better weight class for me, especially with my height and my range. The weight cut is obviously going to be a new challenge, but I've already been dieting down for like the last 6 weeks, so I don't foresee any major issues on the scale.
Sure. So the promotion isn't paying a ton for the travel for this one, so we've got to drive. So what I'm probably most excited about is a 16-hour drive down to Alabama with somebody that's cutting weight. The most I've ever had to do with somebody cutting weight is like 12 hours, and that was horrific. Paul Hunhoff and Bryce Logan, by the way, Bryce Logan just won his fight in Bellator. Congrats, good job. He was also one that was uncharacteristically mean during the entire drive, where I was just like, why are you being so mean? Such hurtful things were said. And I was just like, sir. So, which sucks too, because then also I'm going to have to probably lower my caloric intake, because I don't want to be sitting there eating the whole time. You know, you're sitting there starving for fear that she might just say something that's going to cut me too deep, right? Like I'm going to start crying.
I feel like most of the time I just tend to get quieter and quieter the closer I get to that weigh-in time. And then, yeah, it'll be an entirely new me once I get some food back in me, for sure. But that drive down is going to be drastically different than the drive back home. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like sometimes the drive back, like the two scenarios over 22 years of this or 23 years of this stuff is like the drive back when you only have one fighter and they have a loss and it sucks. So then you're driving back for a long time. Nobody wants to really talk. Or the crappy situation where you have like 4 or 5 people that have fought. Everybody won except for one person, and everybody wants to be all excited, but they can't because one person's down. So it's kind of a funny situation there too. But yeah, so we did rent, instead of a car, we rented like an SUV. So I think we'll just probably shove her in the back and let her sleep. If you're a highway patrolman, please don't notice the small childlike figure that's in the back of the vehicle laying down, probably
in the fetal position.
Yeah, in the fetal position, probably not with a seatbelt. So. Yeah, I think that's that's pretty much it. I'm really excited for this one. I feel like this one is a really good test for you as far as competition coming up and seeing how the mental side of things. I know that like you've been working with a sports psychologist for this one. Hopefully we'll see some of the changes with that as well, because I think that's the biggest thing is like you're getting your confidence there. I know that that's one that I've struggled with when I was an athlete, and I think now it's almost sometimes hard to teach that when you don't feel like you have those skills on that side. Is like, okay, yeah, just go out there and be confident. Like confidence can come from that, the preparation, but that I do feel like there's that extra benefit of having that mental coach in there. So.
Yeah, and my sports psychiatrist, she actually kind of gave me a mantra to kind of follow, which is courage before confidence. So sometimes you have to go in and just be blank and go and be like, I'm going to try this stuff. And once it works, that's kind of ultimately what builds that confidence. And so most times in practice and sparring, that's kind of my mindset is I'm going to go in first and just be courageous, try to hit this stuff, and then expect that when it lands properly, it's going to build that confidence.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like I talked about with the jiu-jitsu guys that competed for the first time, maybe they've been training for years, but it's really weird when they go out there and compete. It's almost like they're competing as a white belt again because they're a white belt in competition, if you think of it that way. So it's really weird. Like they're like, man, I couldn't think of like, I've been doing this for forever, but I couldn't think of what to do. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that like, man, once the lights hit and you're on that competitive stage, like all of a sudden your brain just sometimes forgets everything.
Yeah, like you remember like 20%.
Yeah, like the blood rushes to the chest and there's nothing in the brain, and then all of a sudden we're just not thinking cognitively anymore. So it's kind of funny. So it's like almost like you have to build that up. And that's why I really like the amateur side of things for the MMA side, is because you get to build that up and say, okay, I get used to that, rather than like throwing yourself directly into that pro scene where you're just like, oh man, I'm finding this all out on the fly. So, well, cool. So is it gonna be on fight.tv or is it?
I'm not entirely sure. I do know they have a pay-per-view link on B2's website. So B2 Fight Series, on their website, you can get your tickets and the pay-per-view link. And that's April 1st. Weigh-ins will be Friday the day before, and we'll let you know how those go.
Yeah, I think those will go really well. If you guys are, if you have private jets and you want to be able to fly down there, or if you just have a lot of miles that you want to fly down there, or you just want to drive, you're all more than welcome to come down as well. Trustville, Alabama. So I don't think I've ever been to Alabama. Well, take that back. We might have done a seminar one time in Alabama, but yeah, I don't think so. All right. Thank you very much for coming on here. We'll also have Jeff on. He's going to be fighting LFA here in Sioux Falls on the 14th?
14th, yep.
14th. That'll be a Friday night, so make sure to watch. The tickets are out now, so you can go to our Instagram page or our website. You can get them from there. This time you do have to use Ticketmaster, so you're just going to use our link, and Jeff will get the percentage for that. Also, if you get a chance, go to the WWE this weekend. Cheyanne is going to be in that. Cheyanne used to train with us for a long time. Now she's in the WWE. That'll be on Sunday, I believe. So, all right. Thank you guys very much.